The movie starts by introducing us to a rich young man named Joseph N. Ashton. He's the only child of a woman who owns many fancy hotels. One day, Joseph was having a good time with a beautiful woman, like he usually did. He liked to be with different women every night because he easily got bored, and he hadn't found a woman he really liked yet. After he finished hanging out with the woman, Joseph went to his office with his assistant Leo to talk about hotel business with his mom. Joseph's mom asked him to go to a town in California and convince a girl to sell her farm to their company. They had already offered the girl a lot of money, but she still wanted to keep her farm for personal reasons. When Joseph heard his mom's explanation, he initially said no because he thought it would be very hard to get the girl to sell her farm. But then, his mom promised to make him the director of their company if he succeeded in convincing the girl, so Joseph agreed to do it. The next day, Joseph went to California with his friend Leo. They went to a rural area where there were lots of farms and vineyards. When they got there, Joseph changed into more casual clothes and planned to use his good looks and charm to impress the girl who owned the farm. Before he left, he asked Leo to find a nearby inn so they could stay in touch if he needed anything. When Joseph got to the farm, he saw a girl helping a cow give birth in a barn. While he was watching her, a little girl named Hannah came up to him and asked him to bring a bucket of water to the couch to help with the birth. Hannah thought Joseph was a farm worker looking for a job, so he followed her to the couch without saying anything. While they were in the couch, Joseph met the owner of the farm, a girl named Callie. She also asked him to help with the cow giving birth. Although he was nervous at first about helping with the birth, in the end, they were able to confirm that the calf was born safely and healthy. When Joseph was getting ready to tell Callie who he really was, she mistakenly called him Manny, thinking he was a guy who wanted to be a farmer on her farm. Hearing this, Joseph decided to keep his true identity a secret and pretended to be Manny. He did this so he could get close to Callie and convince her to sell her farm later on. On Joseph's first day working on the farm, Callie showed him a van that he would be staying in for a while. Then she explained the list of tasks he needed to complete on the farm in the next few days. After Callie left, Joseph called his friend Leo and told him his plan to approach Callie by pretending to be Manny. He also asked Leo to find the real Manny and offered him some money so that the real Manny wouldn't come to Callie's farm. Leo happened to run into the real Manny while buying beer at a tavern. He gave Manny $3,000 to stay away from Callie's farm and hide for a few days until Joseph finished his business with Callie. Manny agreed to the offer because it was a lot of money, and he helped Leo find a good inn in the city. In another place, Callie was having lunch with Hannah and her mother, talking about their lives. During their conversation, they mentioned that Callie's father, who used to take care of their ranch, passed away in a car accident a few years ago. Since then, Callie had to manage the farm on her own, while also working part-time at a bar to pay for her mother's cancer treatment. On top of that, her father had left behind a lot of debt, and Callie had to work really hard to pay off those debts so the bank wouldn't take away their property. Callie's mother kept urging her to sell the farmland, but Callie was determined to keep the farm her father had built. As Callie was about to leave the house, she discovered a letter from the bank demanding that she pay off all her father's debts immediately. She quickly took the letter and hid it so her mother wouldn't be upset. Shortly afterward, Callie's friend Connor approached her. Connor was one of Callie's close friends who knew about her family and financial problems, so he often worried about her. On the other side of things, Joseph arrived at the inn where Leo and Manny would stay for a while. He instructed Leo to always answer his mother's calls and ask her to give him a few days to approach Callie and convince her to sell the farm. Then, Joseph asked Manny to teach him everything about farm work. Manny agreed, but only if Joseph paid him some money and rented a fancy room at their hotel. The next day, Joseph started doing all the tasks Callie had assigned to him, like cleaning the couch, chopping wood, and milking the cows. Meanwhile, Manny and Leo were relaxing at the inn, playing video games and drinking wine. Manny guided Joseph on how to do all the farm chores over the phone. While Joseph was milking the cows and talking to Manny, Hannah suddenly showed up and almost caught him communicating with the real Manny. Luckily, Hannah didn't hear their conversation, and Callie came to the stable and asked Hannah to leave so she wouldn't disrupt Joseph's work. In the evening, Callie checked the couch to see if Joseph had finished his work. She noticed that the cow's food bucket was empty, so she asked Joseph for help in getting more cattle feed from the barn. Joseph used this chance to get closer to Callie and asked about her busy life. She explained that she worked at a bar every night and spent her days looking after the farm and vineyard her father had left behind. Joseph was surprised to hear that Callie worked so hard without getting much rest. The scene then shifted to Callie sharing with her co-workers at the bar about her mother's illness, which hadn't improved despite multiple rounds of chemotherapy. That night, Joseph accidentally ended up at the bar where Callie worked to talk to her. However, Leo and Manny, who were supposed to wait in the car, entered the bar and almost revealed Joseph's true identity. Thankfully, Leo quickly took Manny out of the bar, so Connor, who happened to be there, didn't realize who Joseph really was. Late into the night, a drunken Connor started bothering and touching Callie inappropriately, which made Joseph angry, and he ended up hitting Connor. Fortunately, Callie intervened and stopped their fight, forcing them to leave the bar. The following day, Callie showed Joseph her father's motorcycle and shared the story of her father's car accident. Shortly after, Hannah approached Callie and asked for help with dinner. Callie decided to invite Joseph to have dinner with them at her home and also introduced him to her mother. Since that evening, Joseph became more active in his farm work, and he grew closer to Callie's family. That night, Joseph received a message from his mother asking about his progress in convincing Callie to sell her land. His mother said she would visit Callie in person if Joseph couldn't get Callie's signature the next few days. Joseph then went to Leo's place and shared all the difficulties that Callie's family was facing. He started to doubt whether he should really ask Callie to give up her farm, which her father had left behind. Leo advised Joseph to follow his heart and make the right decision for everyone involved. After that, Manny joined them with a bottle of wine and showed off his skill in identifying the different types of wine they were drinking. The next day, Callie took Joseph to an old vineyard that her grandfather had started many years ago. Her grandfather had brought grape seeds from France and planted them in the vineyard. Later, the vineyard was passed down to Callie's father. He had borrowed money from the bank to make wine and sell it, but unfortunately, things didn't work out, and he ended up with a lot of debt. As they shared a bottle of wine, Callie talked to Joseph about her past, including her father's struggles and her mother's battle with cancer. She explained that despite receiving tempting offers to sell the farm, she was determined to keep it because it held many precious memories for her and her father. Joseph saw the sadness in Callie's eyes, felt sorry for her, and tried to comfort her with a kiss. In return, Callie gave Joseph a bottle of wine that her late grandfather had created. Later on, Joseph got in touch with Leo to discuss his plan to reveal his true identity to Callie. Joseph intended to approach Callie and explain why he had come to her place. However, Joseph had developed feelings for Callie, and when the moment came, he couldn't bring himself to reveal his true self. Instead, he kissed her. Shortly after, Hannah came to inform Callie that their mother had not woken up from her sleep. Callie rushed to check on her mother and found that her mother had lost consciousness. Joseph helped Callie take her mother to the hospital for immediate treatment. Thankfully, after receiving medical care and medication, Callie's mother regained consciousness and started to recover. Although Callie's mother had accepted her fate, Callie continued to ensure that her mother received regular treatment. A few days later, Joseph surprised Callie by fixing her father's broken motorcycle so they could ride it again. After dropping Callie off at a bar, Joseph took a short trip to retrieve the land sales contract from his mother. He made up his mind to help Callie maintain her farm. Meanwhile, Leo received information that Joseph's mother would visit Callie's farm the next day to persuade Callie to sell her land. Leo rushed to inform Joseph, but when he arrived at the bar, Joseph and Callie had already left, and he couldn't reach Joseph. At the same time, Leo received a call from Joseph's mother, and Connor, who happened to be there, overheard their conversation. Connor discovered Joseph's real identity and finally understood who Joseph truly was. The following day, Connor messaged Callie, revealing Joseph's true identity and warning her not to trust him anymore. Before long, Joseph's mother arrived with her assistant and immediately approached Callie to discuss the price of Callie's farm. She offered a higher amount than the previous offer, hoping that Callie could use the money to pay off her debts at the bank and cover her mother's medical expenses. However, Callie firmly declined the offer and asked Joseph's mother to leave her property immediately. After Joseph's mother left, Joseph tried to apologize to Callie and explain that his feelings for her were genuine. But Callie, feeling disappointed and betrayed by the deception, found it hard to forgive him so quickly. The next day, as Joseph was preparing to leave for his hometown, he gave Manny a bottle of wine that Callie had given him earlier. After realizing that the wine was unique and special, they decided to offer it to wine producers. When a wine company director named Bob tasted the wine, he was immediately interested in selling it at a fairly high price. In the evening, Joseph quickly fixed Callie's vineyard, which had been damaged for a long time. He also informed Callie that he had found a company willing to make her grandfather's wine. The next day, Bob visited Callie's vineyard and wine cellar to check the quality of the wine in the barrels. After tasting the wine, Bob immediately offered to buy Callie's wine at a very high price. Callie was overjoyed and shared the good news with her mother. She never imagined that the farm and vineyard she had worked so hard to maintain would solve all her family's money problems. In short, Callie and her family celebrated Christmas together on the farm to mark their success. At the Christmas party, Joseph returned to apologize to Callie, and finally she forgave him because they both loved each other. The movie ends with Callie and Joseph reuniting and sharing a romantic kiss. So the moral of the story is, if you want to impress someone, don't pretend to be a cow-milking, wood-chopping farmer. Just be yourself, because love is like a fine wine. It's best when it's genuine and not bottled up.